Hey everyone. You know, I decided to read this book. We can start off with that. I decided to read this book, The Naked Ape, because I wanted to know, which is, pretty ironic, but am I an ape? And how did I evolve? How did I become what I am today basically? So the answer to the first question, am I an ape? Yes, in part. Basically yes, in part. To put it have it brief. And how did I evolve? We can get into that here. So, of course, we started as primates and apes. I'm pretty sure they said there's over 100 of them, and we all lived in forests. But us, the Homo sapien ape, we moved out from the forest into the grasslands and into the desert areas, and that's pretty much what separated us from all the other apes. And of course, there's other theories, and we'll get into the theory I'm thinking about later. But and after that happened, we became, you could say, hunters, because in the past, like most primates, they eat like vegetables, nuts, and fruits, which is like an not omnivore, kind of vegetarian. We could, I forgot the word. You know the the animals that eat only plants, basically. So basically, that's what we used to be, until we became. Well, no, you could say we ate things because we ate frogs, like for example. So we could say we were omnivores, but we became, as you can see, we went to land, and after we went to land, we had to start hunting for food because there wasn't food for us to grab. So when we were hunting, this is basically where everything started. It all started with the hunt. This is what made us basically what we are today, because what the what the past humans had to do, or past Homo sapiens, to use the correct terms, is the men would go out and hunt for the foods, while the and this seems normal when I say it, while the woman would stay behind in the house and take care of the children. And with that, they had to learn, they had to learn cooperation, which, as we learned in War and Peace and War, cooperation is what makes empires thrive, and what brings civilizations up. So they learned the cooperation, and not only that, but they had to learn to trust. They had to trust in each other, because the women that were staying at home, they had to not be sexually active with the other men who stayed in the camp, if they were in the camp. And with that, we became territorial creatures, because the men would come home and bring home the bacon. This it's the same thing that happens today with, well, women work today now too, with with these, there's new women rights. There has been in the past 50 years. It's actually kind of surprising that women, they've been in the house for, man, just a long time. Thousands and thousands of generations, pretty much. Well, obviously, and sometimes women did go out on the hunt. It wasn't always like the man had to do everything. But, and as you can see in the picture here, what what changed us from apes, the main thing, was one, our sexuality, and our and with that, the thing that changed the sexuality, because honestly, that's pretty much the big difference between us and other apes. Well, other than, of course, the biggest difference, our brain. And that's our brain. That's basically the reason we were able to survive and thrive, because with our brain, we were able to process things and just learn and imitate, like imitation through language, for instance. When we imitate through language, we can learn language when we're young, because we imitate what we hear and what we see other people's mouths do. And we also imitate other activities, such as if we had to make a boat, or for instance, something personal, well, not personal for me, but something that I've done. Build a computer. I learned that through watching videos on YouTube. So I imitated it through my brain. So imitation, that's a key skill to have in order to survive and thrive in making a civilization or in making a race. Because if you have to start over like completely every time, like what monkeys do, for instance, except they don't really start over every time, but because they know what foods to eat and things like that, but they just don't have it to the degree because their brain. So the apes, like the difference between us and chimpanzees, basically, is our brain keeps developing after puberty, but before puberty, their brain stops developing. So if our brain kept developing, we would even be smarter. Well, I can't say smarter, but our cognitive processes would be better. And I can't say we would have better creative thinking. We would be more intelligent, but because I don't know, like this stuff, I'm kind of just getting into. Well, I just thought about for the first time actually. But that's the difference between us and chimpanzees. Our brain develops more basically. So I kind of forgot what point I was at. Oh yes, sex. So with that, we basically became sexual creatures through standing up. Honestly, as you can see here, standing up, just being upright like this, Homo sapien here, because we're pretty much all animals. Honestly, that's one thing that they pointed out in this book. We're pretty much this Desmond Morris. He's a zoologist. Also, just to put some context on the author, he's a zoologist but okay, back to standing up. So through standing up, we were, and through standing up, we show our, I can't say sexiness, but basically we show our things on the front. So you see with the male genitals, the female genitals, and the woman's breasts, and the face and the hair. That's another thing. And the body in a sense, like you see the chest, the bicep, and things of that nature. So okay, what does this lead to? Well, I gotta provide some context for everyone. So the other apes, or monkeys, we should say, we can call them. They do everything from the back. So for instance, they have their sexual intercourse from the back, while we have ours mainly. They showed a study, 70% is from the front. So we're in the front. So basically, we're kind of like the opposite of monkeys. We're like the smart ape, basically. Well, and he shows it the naked ape, because we can go to that next. But just know that our sex makes us different from the from the other monkeys, from the other apes. And we have a lot of differences. Like for one, the naked ape. We can go into that next. So one thing they talked about was obviously the naked ape. We are hairless. If you didn't understand that, while other apes, they have hair. And the theory for why we became, or why we shed most of our hair, is that most because when we were basically together, or not we, but when the woman and people were living together in the camps that they had set up, and in the beds, there were fleas there. And the fleas, they live basically on your hair. And like, yes, fleas and lice and things of that nature. Those, I can't say microscopic, but basically those little bugs. And what they do is, or what we did to supposedly kind of get away from that and not live in that type of environment, was not live in the type of environment, but to evolve from that situation, was to shed our hair. And that's something that, well, a theory that we could kind of believe, honestly. It's not something that's totally unbelievable, but the other theory, which I kind of believe only because I read it in some other books, is the Aquatic Ape Theory, which states that for a certain time period, we were actually living in the water. And I can't say living in the water, but living on shore. which is close to the water, and we ate things from the water. We got our resources from the shore and around the water, and that they said that the aquatic ape theory states why we have fat on our body. Because if we were to live in a hot area, like the desert where these Homo sapiens were hunting and things, like what would they need fat for if they were already out in the heat? Like their body just didn't need fat. So with that, and obviously, we could talk about calories in, calories out, because that's pretty much what decides if someone will gain fat or not. But through evolution, like why do we need fat? Honestly, if if the early humans were just living in a heated environment, I don't think our body would have evolved to have fat. So, but what they say with the aquatic ape theory, which is why I kind of believe it, is that we we have fat because we lived in the water. So, and with the water, it was chilly. And yeah, with the water it was chilly, so and that also explains why like on our hands we have these in between our fingers we have I don't know what they're called. Amphibian things. Frog like hands basically. We have these weird hands basically. And and it also explains they showed why we have our hair like on our back. See, like this is nothing like the back. It doesn't really matter because we can't see it, but it's still important. Like if you work out, still train your back. That's something that's very important. But that shows why our hair, which I don't know if it's true or not because I haven't seen someone else's back that's been hairy, but they stated that our hairs go down and back. Like if we were swimming and the water was flowing behind us, like the little hairs on our back would basically make the water go back, or make the hair go back I should say, because of the flow of the water. And they also stated that the water is the reason why we lost our hair, because or shed our hair I should say, because it wasn't needed to be wet all the time if we're in water a lot. But our hair, like the reason we still have water on our hair is because that's where we come up to breathe. So our basically when we were swimming in the sea, our hair was the part that was most free or most out of the water. So the other parts of basically humans, they haven't changed. Just know. Other than the civilization and the modernization and the yes, just know we really haven't changed at all. We haven't evolved in we have actually. I should say through reading and writing. That's a very important thing because through reading and writing, now we can understand each other. Well, we can understand each other through language, but like mass literacy, like we can understand each other throughout the world. So the parts of the humans that haven't changed is they called it rearing, and which is basically protecting the baby and taking control over the baby. Not taking control, but just being with the baby. And the other part that hasn't changed about us is exploration. So in the past, when they would hunt, I can't say they always look for things, but sometimes they would just go out and look for things and look for new things. And we kind of do that now with I correlated that with like YouTube and or me looking up books or reading books because like I explore through reading and through learning new things. So aside from that, the other main things is fighting and anger. And of course, we fought in the past, and the things that we fight over are for to basically show our dominance in the social hierarchy or to establish our territory, which we were territorial creatures and we still are. Well, we can't say we are actually. That's one thing they said because we have nothing to defend against pretty much. Maybe if you live in a bad environment, maybe you need to defend, but I don't have a need to defend my house. So the other thing is feeding. That's another thing that really hasn't changed except, yeah, it really hasn't changed because, we still heat our meals. And in the past, if you know, when you kill an animal, its meat is hot. So if you kill it and slice it open, its meat will be hot because like the animal was just alive basically. And you know that mammals they tend to be relatively hot, their body temperature, normal body temperature. So we heat up our food. Well, they stated that we heat up our food to one to make it taste better, and in reality, it's not making it taste better, just making it smell better because our taste buds they don't taste it. What what really makes the food have taste is the smell we get from it. So like when we're sick and we can't smell, we say the food is tasteless. When in reality, that's how the food really tastes. We just can't smell it. So it's kind of it's kind of pointless to say that you know the food doesn't taste good because in reality it just doesn't smell optimal. So hey, you learned a new thing here. And another thing is comfort. We still want to be comfortable. In the past, we try to be comfortable, but now even in modern times, like for instance, I just thought of an example through toilet paper. That makes us even more comfortable because we don't have to walk around feeling just feeling something in our rear end all the time. So comfort that's something that has stayed because they wanted to feel comfortable too. They didn't want to be uncomfortable. And sleep weird. I bet they had comfortable sleeping positions. And the last thing is animals. That's something that, well, animals, well, you could say we are animals, but what we are, we're animals. But that's something that, well, we're not too sure if they had. Well, yeah, we could see. They didn't really talk about if whether or not the Homo sapiens had dogs in the past, but of course now we have animals. And but the thing that they did bring up, I should say, was that humans or children, I should say, children's their favorite animals, 97% of the time they answered was another mammal. And mammals basically they're trying to say that mammals love each other. They have interspecific love, interspecies love, and it's kind of true because like why would a dog love a bird, for instance? Wait, is a dog? I'm not sure if a dog is a mammal. Yes, it is. Like a monkey. Like why would a monkey love a bird, for instance? Like a monkey is more likely to love a monkey. So a human who's also an ape, but just evolved differently, like I said, because the other apes they just stayed in the forest while we moved out to the desert. So that's pretty much the difference. And so with animals, it's normal for us to love each other basically. And and this was my take on the naked ape. So what's the meaning of this? We could say the meaning the meaning is basically we haven't changed at all. But you have the opportunity to change. That's the message I'm trying to get across. Even though we haven't changed as a species, you have the opportunity to change yourself for the better. And you can live a good life too. So so now you know.